Yeah, welcome everyone to the Marijuana Times show for December 20th, 2017. My name is Joe Klare. You can find myself and many other great writers and more over at marijuanatimes.org. If I sound like I have a cold. I do have a cold, so I apologize for that. Still fighting it. But those of you who watch this show on a regular basis, you know that. Followed the saga of my poor health over the last couple of weeks. A lot of stuff at marijuanatimes.org. A lot of great stuff about the cannabis community and industry. And of course, you can find these videos there as well. You can share them on your social media networks. We're also on the Facebook, like, share, comment, all that stuff. We're also an audio podcast at Apple Podcasts. Just search the Marijuana Times. A lot of stuff going on today, including Vermont and their possibility of them legalizing marijuana in the next few weeks. Also, a rather long story from Politico about something that the Obama administration was involved in. And also a tweet about weed socks. Maybe you're saying to yourself, well, that's not really a big deal. Well, it is a big deal, and I'll tell you why here in a moment. But first, I have to tell you, the Marijuana Times show is brought to you by Natureside Cannabis.com, organic, all-natural pesticides. Natureside products are listed on the approved for use in the cultivation of marijuana by the Colorado, Washington, and Oregon State Agriculture Departments. There's also legal cultivation in many other states, including California, with regulations in regards to pesticides that come with that. If you want to pass those regulations, be regulatory compliant, and of course, you don't want to give your customers harmful chemicals or something that could harm them, especially medical marijuana patients with compromised. That's the word I'm looking for. Compromised immune systems. Check out Natureside Cannabis.com, a proud sponsor of the Marijuana Times show, and they will get you regulatory compliant. Go check them out. Our first story from marijuanatimes.org. Vermont could legalize cannabis as soon as January. The state of Vermont has been on the edge of legalizing cannabis for over a year now, and each attempt puts them closer to becoming the first state to do so through the legislative process. Earlier this year, a bill finally passed votes in both the Senate and the House, only to be vetoed by Governor Scott at the last minute. It wasn't all for nothing, though, as Scott gave an idea of what he wanted to see changed for him to feel comfortable signing the bill. Dave Silberman, a Middlebury attorney and pro bono drug policy reform advocate, said in an interview, quote, after starts and stops, Governor Scott and the legislature are finally on the same page with respect to cannabis policy reform, and it now seems clear that Vermont will legalize possession and personal cultivation within weeks. Bill expected to pass in early January has already been approved by the Senate and is technically only pending one more vote at the House floor before going to Governor Scott once again. It will allow residents to legally possess personal amounts of cannabis and grow a limited number of plants in their homes, but it will not make the commercial sale of the herb legal just yet. It will create a commission that would consider the issue of determined impaired driving. Also, there's a commission that is studying the possible commercial sale legalization of marijuana, because that's always a good thing. They have to have a study and put together a commission or a task force to study marijuana legalization. But it'll be better than nothing. I mean, there won't be any sales, which of course leaves the black market. If you're a black market dealer, you love that. That's kind of not the point of legalization. But again, people will be able to grow at home, and they'll be able to possess a certain amount. So all in all, of course, it would be a win for the people of Vermont. Vermont would become the 9th state officially with recreational legalization. This next story, as mentioned, it's kind of a long story or political. Well, it's not kind of a long story. It's a very long story. It's long to the point where there are parts of it. But I'll give you the gist. Politico.com. It's a story about what the Obama administration did. And a lot of people these days are very polarized when it comes to politics. But Politico, by any stretch of the imagination, would not be considered a right-wing rag. It's just a massive story, which I'm surprised doesn't get more play, but I guess with Donald Trump being the kind of guy he is and all the things going with tax reform and all that, that's to be expected. Like I said, it's Politico.com. And again, the links to all these stories can be found in the description of this video. Part 1, a global threat emerges. This is the story itself is called The Secret Backstory of How Obama Led Hezbollah Off the hook, an ambitious U.S. task force targeting Hezbollah's billion-dollar criminal enterprise ran headlong into the White House's desire for a nuclear deal with Iran. In its determination to secure a nuclear deal with Iran, the Obama administration derailed an ambitious law enforcement campaign targeting drug trafficking by the Iranian-backed terrorist group Hezbollah, even as it was funneling cocaine into the United States, according to a Politico investigation. The campaign, dubbed Project Cassandra, was launched in 2008 after the DEA amassed evidence that Hezbollah had transformed itself from a Middle East-focused military and political organization into an international crime syndicate that some investigators believe was collecting $1 billion a year from drugs and weapons trafficking, money laundering, and other criminal activity. Over the next 8 years, agents working out of a top-secret DEA facility in Chantilly, Virginia, used wiretaps, undercover operations, and informants to map Hezbollah's illicit networks with the help of 30 U.S. and foreign security agents. Which, by the way, we're talking about the Drug Enforcement Administration, the DEA. This is what they're supposed to be doing. When they're busy busting marijuana users and marijuana dealers, this is what they're supposed to be working on. Things that actually could harm the United States, including a terrorist organization collecting billions of dollars from selling drugs. They follow all the shipments. And again, you can go check the story out yourself. It's a massive, massive story. I'll scroll down here a little bit to the crux of what was going on. Apparently, at every turn, they ran into problems. The Obama administration, the various State Departments and other departments in the Obama administration, like the Justice Department, declined requests by Project Cassandra and ordered authorities to file criminal charges against major players in Hezbollah's high-profile envoy to Iran, a Lebanese bank that allegedly laundered billions in alleged drug profits, and a central player in the U.S.-based cell of the Iranian paramilitary Quds force. The State Department rejected requests to lure high-value targets to countries where they could be arrested. Basically, the Obama administration threw roadblocks in the path of this investigation because they wanted the Iran deal, the Iran nuclear deal done, and they didn't want to piss off Iran. Now, scroll back up here. There was a quote. Here we go. This was a policy decision. It was a systematic decision, said David Asher, who helped establish and oversee Project Cassandra as a Defense Department illicit finance analyst. Quote, they serially ripped apart this entire effort that was very well supported and resourced, and it was done from the top down. And the problem with this, beyond the obvious problems, at the same time, if you remember, in the first term of the Obama administration, there was a massive medical marijuana crackdown. Thousands of dispensaries, or more than 1,000 dispensaries, were closed down in places like Colorado and Washington and California at the behest of U.S. attorneys working for the Department of Justice under President Obama, destroying a lot of businesses and hurting a lot of medical marijuana patients. So at the same time that the Obama administration, Department of Justice, and his U.S. attorneys are going after medical marijuana providers and patients, they're blocking the DEA from doing their job when it comes to tracking Hezbollah and the fact that they are now a drug empire. As I say, you can go see the whole story over at Politico. Very well done. And again, nobody's going to accuse Politico of having any kind of Republican or right-wing bias. So you can go check that out. This last story is a tweet. Actually, it's not a story. You can see it here. It's from Representative Peter DeFazio. He said, every year my friend Rep. Blumenauer, Representative Blumenauer, who's a champion of marijuana law reform in the Congress, brings me a fruitcake to keep my spirits high during the holidays. This year I decided to return the favor with these socks. And you see the picture there if you're watching the video version. If you're in the audio version, well, you cannot see it. That's how audio works. Is Representative Blumenauer holding up festive weed leaf socks. They're basically weed leaves with little Christmas lights on them. And a cynic would say that, well, this is kind of they're making light of marijuana at a time when it's still illegal under federal law and a lot of people are still going to jail. And they have a valid point when it comes to that, even though Representative Blumenauer has done probably more than just about anybody. Maybe Jared Polis has done more, but Representative Blumenauer has been a massive champion for marijuana law reform in Congress for a very long time, decades even. So it's not like he's not doing anything while he's, holding up his weed socks. But the thing is, is I think what the cynics of this story would miss is the fact that the normalization and the mainstreaming of marijuana continues. I've said it on the show a couple times. I said the other day, if you watch a movie and you see somebody drinking a beer, you don't think anything of it. You probably don't even notice it, really. If someone asked you after the movie, they said, well, what was character X drinking? You probably wouldn't have any idea. Your brain wouldn't focus on that at all because it's so commonplace. But if you see somebody in a movie or a TV show smoking a joint, you notice that. And if they ask somebody asks you after the movie, hey, what was so-and-so smoking? You say, oh, it was a joint, a spliff, a doob. So you notice. That's because marijuana is not as ingrained in society and into our pop culture consciousness and into the mainstream as alcohol is. But things like this move us in that direction. There's 2 congressmen. One's holding up weed socks. They're in the U.S. Capitol. If that doesn't help mainstream the concept of marijuana and cannabis, I don't know what does. So, I mean, you could be cynical about that, but I would say look at the bright side. There's a congressman holding weed socks on Twitter. Something you couldn't imagine even 10 years ago. That'd have been crazy. People would have been calling for him to be thrown out of office. But now it's just, a funny story. Because he brings this guy, this Representative Fazio, fruitcake every year, which is kind of a crappy gift. I guess that's the point. I guess it's kind of a joke. Like the weed socks are a joke. But the more people, say middle America, NASCAR dads, soccer moms, whatever you want to call them, you know who I'm talking about. The people in the middle of America, they don't smoke weed. They heard about a lot of bad stuff about it when, back when, but now they think, well, it's really none of my business. If someone's smoking weed, it's not, they're not hurting me. Why do I care? Stuff like this helps cement marijuana as part of the mainstream. And that is a good thing. As I've said many times before, legalization won't happen without that. The normalization of marijuana either has to come first or along with the laws that are going to legalize marijuana. And go follow Representative Blumenauer. Like I said, him and Representative Polis and Rohrabacher, and there's quite a few in Congress now that Ro Khanna, they tweet about marijuana. Hell, Orrin Hatch, Orrin Hatch, the crazy Mormon senator from Utah, Republican, very conservative. He's tweeting all the time about marijuana research, and we need more research, and medical marijuana is great and helps a lot of people. Things are changing, and stuff like this helps with that normalization, that mainstreaming, and that changing. Thanks everybody for listening to this episode of the Marijuana Times Show for December 20th, 2017. Keep sharing and liking and commenting and all that. Check us out on the iTunes. Search Marijuana Times. Thank you to naturesideCannabis.com for sponsoring the show. Organic, all natural pesticides. Again, I apologize for the timbre, the nasally quality of my voice. Hopefully it goes away soon. It annoys me, so I know it annoys you. Thanks everybody for listening. We'll check you out next time here on the Marijuana Times Show. Go spread the word. Thanks everybody.